Welcome to the objective review of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And in the objective review, I break the movie down into 6 categories and assign weights to them depending on the genre, so I can have the most honest, unbiased, objective review as possible. So let's get started with story.
My name is Miles Morales. I'm the one and only Spider-Man. At least that's what I thought.
The story follows Miles Morales, who doesn't really apply himself that much in life. He's really smart, he's really talented, but he just isn't trying that hard. He eventually gets bitten by a radioactive spider and gets Spider-Man's powers. And he comes across Peter Parker as he's trying to stop Kingpin from this machine that will rip a hole into the multiverse. And once Miles gets these powers, I feel like he has to become Spider-Man and stop Kingpin and possibly carry on this legacy of Spider-Man, and he deals with what that legacy really means. And on that way, he comes across multiple Spider people from different multiverses. You have Spider-Gwen, you have Spider-Ham, Spider-Man Noir, all these different Spider-Men. But even though there's all these cast of characters and Spider-Man in this, it would be easy for Miles Morales to kind of get lost in that shuffle, but he doesn't. This story is really a lot about Miles and how he grows up and faces new challenges and becomes the person he needs to become, that he always could be. This story also has a couple of twists and turns. It kind of turns some notions upside down on their head. Some villains are swapped, and it's just a really good story. I love teen coming-of-age stories, and this is no different, but involves superpowers. But what's the moral of the story? I think just like Batman Begins, the moral of the story is that it's not who you are underneath, but what you do that defines you. And like in Dark Knight Rises, anyone can be a hero. I mean, Miles Morales can be a hero. Peter Parker can be a hero. I can be a hero. You can be a hero. Everyone has the capacity to be a hero. You just have to do it. So the story was very solid, very good characters, given 8 out of 10. Next on to emotion.
My family lives in Brooklyn.
Whoa. Miles, what's wrong?
And there are 2 or 3 fairly emotional moments in this movie. I think the first emotion scene really emphasizes what Spider-Man is about and what that legacy really means, what his impact is on not just people in New York City, but on his loved ones and on everyone, and how that weight might burden Miles Morales now. There's a very terrific Stan Lee cameo that was done really well in this movie. There's another emotional scene where I feel like Miles comes to the realization that the world is full of grays. Things aren't so black and white. The world can be kind of dark. Even though I didn't get really teary-eyed, I still felt a lot of emotion in a lot of these scenes. Have to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Next is on to action.
This was never your city. It's mine.
There is some action in this movie. I feel like there's only really 2 main action sequences. There's a fight with like all the Spider people against some villains in a house, and I think that fight's really great because it's very contained, and how do you deal with that? Just that claustrophobicness of space. And there's also the fight in the climax, which I think was done fairly well. I am a little bit disappointed in the action in this movie because it's animated. I mean, you have no bounds. You can do anything, and I feel like they kind of fell short a little bit there. So for action, give it a 7.5 out of 10. That's on the comedy.
That way. Other way.
Do animals talk in this dimension? Because I don't want to freak him out.
Jay Johnson is a kind of a lazy, hobo-ish Spider-Man. It's hilarious. Miles Morales being so unsure of himself a lot of times. Like when he first gets powers and the spider sense are going crazy. That's funny. John Mulaney as Spider-Pig and Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man Noir is funny. Everyone does a great job with the humor in this. Even the side characters do a good job. So for comedy, give it an 8.5 out of 10. That is on acting.
How am I supposed to save the whole world?
You can't think about saving the world. You have to think about saving one person.
And the voice cast they assemble for this movie is stellar. You have John Mulaney as Spider-Pig. You have Leah Schreiber as Kingpin. You have Mahershala Ali. You have Nicolas Cage. But there's 2 great performances. One by Jay Johnson as Spider-Man, like I mentioned before. He was just a great Spider-Man. I mean, even though doesn't sound like he'd be Spider-Man at all, his filling that mentor role, I think he did a really good job there. And he had a really good range of acting. And Shamik Moore carried a huge load here. I mean, he had to show a wide range of acting. So for acting, give it an 8.5 out of 10. Next is on to directing.
Who are you?
I'm Gwen Stacy. I'm from another dimension.
Hey, fellas.
Hello.
it can get weirder.
And that's where the movie shines. Like, the animation is beautiful in this movie. The animation style is incredible. I haven't seen this type of creative animation style done since the Lego movie, which makes sense because the Lego movie was directed by Chris Miller and Phil Lord, and they produced this movie as well. And there's a great comic inspiration, and I think they mostly used towards the beginning of the movie. They kind of dropped that motif after a while, but it is just comic books come to life. Even though this movie is comic books come to life, I mean, they really made the characters feel real. Like, this might be the most realist feeling superhero movie I've watched. Miles Morales feels like a real character, and that's due to the great directing. And I love the switch up in animation styles too. I mean, these certain Spider-Man have different animation goes with them. Also, not only that, but the sound design for each one of them done is different and unique, and it just adds a lot more character to them. And the music in this movie was great. It was so fitting to all the scenes. Done a phenomenal job. Pacing was good, score was good, the cinematography was beautiful. I mean, some scenes were just beautiful to look at. Like I said, the animation's amazing. So for directing, give that a 9 out of 10. So that brings us to our weighted average score of an 8.3 out of 10. Great score, but is it the best Spider-Man movie that I've seen? Looking at my sell file, which has every single superhero movie ever created and rated each of these 6 categories, and they all have the same weights, it is without a doubt the second best Spider-Man movie of all time. Spider-Man 2 still takes the cake for best Spider-Man movie of all time. But sincerely, thank you for watching. Let me know what your favorite Spider-Man is and Spider-Man movie is. Again, thank you. I'm out.